Hi folks, and welcome back to Meaningful Money. Okay, I'm here just outside St. Buryan. It's one of my sort of quick and easy, just get out and shoot a couple of videos fast sort of locations. So it's not that interesting, but it's all of about 5 minutes from my house. So we started last time our new series on equity release, and so we need to start putting some flesh on the bones of that really, and that's going to take us quite a few videos, I think. So today's video is sort of why equity release. Why is it a good idea for some people? Why might it be something you should consider? And perhaps look at what the alternatives are as well, which is quite important. So as ever, before we get into the meat of it, I must thank my good friends down here. Here they are down here, 7 Investment Management. So thank you to them for sponsoring Meaningful Money and helping me to keep going. So first of all, why equity release? Perhaps even just before that is, what is equity? Probably the word equity is a little bit like the word bond. It means a few different things. So we'll talk about equities when we're talking about investing in shares. But right now what I mean is it's the difference in the value of your home. That's already an absolutely rubbish explanation. Shall I start again? It's the value of your home less any mortgage you have on it. So if you have a house worth 150,000 and a mortgage of 100,000, then your equity is the £50,000 difference. If you have no mortgage, then the equity in the property is all of the value of your property. Simple as that, okay? It's possible for equity to be either positive or negative. There's been a little bit of talk about negative equity recently again, although it was sort of back in the 80s, I think, when it was last a really big deal. Negative equity is where you owe more in your mortgage than your house is worth. I'm sure that's still quite prevalent today, because prior to the credit crunch it was possible to get 100% mortgages where you borrow the whole value of your home, and since then property values have dropped, so it's quite possible that you owe more than your house is worth. That's only a problem if you can't keep up your mortgage payments or you have to move for whatever reason. But anyway, so it's positive. It's possible for equity to be either positive or negative. So why would you want to release this equity? If you've got this equity sort of tied up in your home, why would you want to release it? Well, it's important to just sort of cover off the difference between income and wealth. You see, it's possible to be wealthy while having a very low income. For example, it could be that the only income you've got is the state pension, but you're sitting in a house worth £500,000, £1 million even. Various circumstances could have happened to enable that to be the case. So it's possible to be wealthy and have no income. It's also possible to have a good income but not have much sort of wealth put aside. Hopefully that's not the case. But when, if you think back to the bucket, I can't remember what episode number that was, I should have written that down. Nagging feeling it's 134. But if you think back to the bucket, which is your liquid wealth, remember the house wasn't in it. And there's various things which can erode or sort of reduce the level of water in your bucket, the level of liquid wealth. So inflation can have a big impact on it. Maybe you've got sort of a fixed pensions or just small pensions, and with the cost of living going ever upwards, your pensions are not keeping pace with that perhaps, and so you're dipping into your bucket, your liquid wealth, and eroding it. Demographics is also against us. We're living longer, and chances are now it's quite possible for people to live as long after retiring as they did working. So if you work for 40 years, it's not unheard of now to live for 40 years after you stop working. And so you've got to have money set aside to pay for that. So all these factors are potentially against you and against the level of water in your bucket. So equity release is a good way of topping up the bucket, and that's basically it. So remember the bucket. All financial planning really comes back to that. Income, outgoings, and the value of liquid wealth you can get your hands on. So that's why you might want to release equity, to top up your bucket, simple as that. But there are some alternatives, and it's important that any advisor you talk to about equity release covers these off. So the obvious one is, rather than releasing equity through some kind of equity release product, is actually to sell your house and trade down. So, sell your big house, move down to a 2-bedroom bungalow or something. All sorts of reasons why you may not want to do that. There would be emotional reasons rather than financial reasons usually. But that's the obvious alternative. Trade down buy a house for less than you've sold your first one for, and therefore the difference is dropped into your bucket. You may even consider selling and renting, so selling your property and going into rented accommodation. It's probably not the most practical option, because then you're living in somebody else's house and they could obviously sort of evict you if they wanted to, given a set notice period. But that's another option. You could, rather than an equity release mortgage, which detail we'll get into next time, you could just opt for a conventional mortgage where you have to pay it back. Again, there may be reasons why you might not want to do that, but it's an alternative. Perhaps you could borrow from relatives or some other sort of low interest source. If you really need to top up your bucket of some level, maybe your kids are doing very well and have put some money aside, and you could ask them. You looked after them for long enough, maybe they'd be prepared to lend to you. It's an alternative to an equity release, borrowing from relatives. Maybe you could let out part of your home, take on a lodger or something. All these are alternatives. But what we're talking about in this series is equity release, some kind of product which helps you get money out of the value of your house and into your bucket. And there's two broad types of those: the lifetime mortgage and the home reversion plan. So the next two videos, I'm going to pick apart what they actually are and how they work, starting next time with lifetime mortgage. So we've looked at the alternatives, we've looked at why you might want to release equity, and so next time we're going to look at lifetime mortgages, which is the main sort of equity release product available. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time for that.